market's shifting, the cheese is moving, how people are getting their software to market is significantly changing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Incident Report presented by Quest Technology Management. I'm Paul Burke, Director of Technology Communications, and every week I'm joined by VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. The Incident Report brings you conversations with thought leaders, business innovators, and channel mavericks to help you stay productive and agile in a changing technology landscape. Today, Adam and I talk about managed service provider tools, the role of distributors, and a new security threat. Welcome back to the Incident Report. This is episode 4. I'm sitting here with Adam Burke. Adam, how you doing?
Doing all right, Paul. Doing all right. Today is February the 28th of the year 2022. A slow news week, but hope everyone's doing great.
I'm glad this is a two-person show because I forget to add the dates. Then you come in and add the dates, and it's helpful. We got a good system. I say the episode number, you say the date. We got a good thing happening, Adam.
It's a team sport, Paul. And of course, I'm inappropriately joking about it being a slow news week. There's a lot going on in the United States and abroad. And today, what we want to talk about is how that affects IT, our operations, and the world that we operate in.
Yeah, Adam, you're 100% right. There's a lot going on. So let's jump in to one of the stories you highlighted, which is from channelinsider.com. All the links will be provided in the description for the show. The article is entitled Best Managed Service Provider Tools 2022. And Adam, it is a long list and there is a lot of jargon. So we're gonna dive into it, and I'm glad you're here to parse apart this jargon and help me understand these tools. So it begins, a wide range of software and services are now available to help managed service providers optimize their offerings and differentiate themselves in a crowded marketplace. And according to results of a recent survey, 419 MSPs worldwide, it was found that services currently seeing the greatest increase in demand include backup and recovery at 48% and business applications at 39%. And it lists a lot of different tools available, including ITSM tools, RMMs, help desk, PRMs, CIMs, PSAs, incident response, cloud migration. Does it stop there? It doesn't. Ransomware backup protection, and finally, backup and recovery. So, Adam, that is a huge list and a helpful list. Is there any place you want to start? We can start at the top, ITSMs, or anywhere that you think is most important.
So in this article, Paul, one of the things I felt, and I talk about this with partners and with clients all the time, there are so many tools out there that can help organizations to achieve the capability they're looking for. So whether it's an RMM, a remote monitoring and management application, whether it's something that helps an organization like ours with help desk services, so ticketing and logging end user activity, and when people call in, how fast are you responding to that request for help? How fast is it being resolved? How are you tracking engineering time against it? There are a plethora, if you will, of applications and tools out there that are available for MSPs and for people who operate within the IT world to help support their customers. So it is a little bit of jargon when you look at some of these things, but really what you always want to focus on, what we're always focusing on, is what capability are these tools allowing you as an MSP, as a partner, or as a service provider? How are you helping address a customer need? So remote management tools give great visibility into the endpoint. They let us know how things are performing. They allow us to access those endpoints, those servers, those remote systems that we're able to make updates, changes, and help people manage what they're doing in their environments.
Do you think in some ways it's helpful to ask the client, what are you trying to achieve? There are so many services available that it can be a little overwhelming if you're starting from that point.
If you start looking at the tool and start trying to fit your business practices into the tool, then you're basically making the business decision that, hey, this is the limited world I can operate in, and what do I need to do to force my organization to operate within this limited environment? You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would strongly recommend you don't. And maybe what you do is you back up for a second and look at the tools that are available to you, and then the key business capabilities you're trying to achieve. What do you need that incident response tool to achieve? What do you need that remote monitoring and management tool to do for you? What business case is it going to actually help you solve? There's tons of cool widgets out there, lots of cool slide decks, great presentations. What is it doing for your business? And how is it helping you? We're an MSP, Quest is an MSP, we've been an MSP for 20 years. We get pitched every week by vendors out there trying to sell us a widget. The ones who successfully get involved in our company and our business help us and listen to us around what we're trying to achieve with our business and with our customers. Same thing works the other way. We're successful with our clients when we understand what they're trying to achieve, and we can bring the appropriate tools and resources to bear to address that need. There's tons of stuff out there. It's just, what are you trying to achieve? You're exactly right, Paul.
Focusing on all the widgets that you mentioned versus what are the outcomes. An outcome first really helps clarify what you need to look for.
The listeners can check out the article and check out how it was listed. In some respects, it is basically a summary of different tools. It's a summary of different tools that here's the bullet points around each one that's beneficial, right? It talks about things like ConnectWise, and it talks about things like Autotask and other assets out there. Is it going to fit your need? Don't know. Is it going to address what you're trying to do? Not sure, but it does list out certain capabilities, but it is a little bit of a pick list, and it gives you a good snapshot of what companies are targeting from an MSP standpoint.
Do you want me to dive in and go through some of these tools, or just, hey, check it out at your leisure if you're interested in seeing what MSPs can do for you?
I'm not that interested in the brands necessarily. I haven't got a sponsorship request from any of these brands yet asking to sponsor the incident report, which, by the way, we're open for sponsorships if you'd like to sponsor. But they're great tools. They are tools and they can help, but focusing on that capability conversation is where I think people can be successful when reviewing things like this.
The second article we want to dive into is by Tim Britt on channelfutures.com. The role of distributors is disrupting the channel industry. To stand out, distributors need to create value with integrated services. In 2022, many tech companies are increasingly choosing to interact and build customers through a select number of partners instead of using direct translation models. The benefit of this is that it can help build stronger, more seamless relationships with their customers, as well as create more personalized customer journeys. Customers looking for the best route to market from vendor to customer will have to modify strategies and partnerships to ensure they're delivering real benefits to the customers as their market changes this year. A lot of words. Adam, thoughts about that?
Translation is market shifting, the cheese is moving, how people are getting their software to market is significantly changing. You have traditional distributors, you have the Cynics, the TD, Tech Datas, the Arrows, you have those types of traditional distributors. You also have technology distributors who typically used to broker services in the telecommunications world, who are moving significantly into things like software, even hardware to some extent. So there was a large organization that we work with. This is a technology distributor that was acquired by a traditional distributor. So a traditional distributor used to go out there and work with value-added resellers and MSPs and sell them their Microsoft licensing, sell them their hardware, their software, those types of things that those VARs could resell to their end customers. So you have a healthcare customer, they want to buy a switch, they come to the VAR, goes to the distributor holds the paperwork with the manufacturer, they work together to order the switch that the VAR then sells to the end customer. That model, although it's still there, is compressing a bit. People are trying out different things. We saw an announcement last week. This is something that affects us and some of our partnership investments. Yeah, it's Cisco has elected to go direct to the technology distributor market and enable agents and brokers out in the market to sell their WebEx licensing directly to their customers without going through the traditional VAR or MSP channels. So what you had was a long time ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, you had VARs and MSPs who would invest in basically building out capabilities around WebEx and collaboration options with Cisco, and then work with their customers to address what they're trying to do and put a collaboration offering together for that customer and kind of help them acquire the technology that was required. Now, Cisco as trying, they're dipping their toe in the broker model, right? They've partnered with firms like Intelisys, ScanSource, and Telarus, who are two large distributors, technology distributors, previously referred to as master agents. And they're enabling that community with direct access to WebEx licensing and subscription services. So now an individual agent who's never necessarily invested in a partnership with Cisco has direct access to sell that subscription to their customers. For the agents in that community, that's a pretty big, for organizations that maybe have invested in a long relationship with Cisco, that could be a little challenging. So those organizations are making those distinctions. Microsoft is another classic one that's trying to figure out how are they going to get their subscription-based SaaS offerings to customers. Today is the 28th of February. Tomorrow is the 1st of March. The 1st of March, the new customer experience for Microsoft is going forward, and people who are on the month-to-month subscriptions with Microsoft are now going to see pretty significant price increases, and they're going to have to, and Microsoft forcing them, force is probably the wrong word, heavily incentivizing them through a 20% cost increase to move to new customer experience annual licensing for a lot of their licensing models, and through CSPs, through their traditional purchasing vehicles. But they're, rather than saying, hey, yeah, just buy it month to month, they're looking to get people to commit to basically annual licensing agreements. It's always vacillating between how are they distributing their software and their technology. We saw Cisco, they're trying something new. We're in the thick of it with Microsoft right now. We're helping customers move to new customer experience. We're helping partners have that conversation with their clients. A lot of these, and we just learned a couple weeks ago, and it was announced VMware is probably making the same move that Microsoft did from a subscription licensing standpoint. All of these folks are trying to figure out how do we get the beans and bullets to the troops to distribute to the customers. It's always changing. It's a lot of fun, but it can cause some ripples out there. We're seeing it change.
You mentioned that there's a 24% increase on the month to month.
I think it's somewhere between 20 and 40%, depending on the licensing model you have. But yeah, it's going to impact a lot of folks. It was announced last fall. We've been communicating out to our customers and partners pretty consistently the last few months. Hey, you need to take a look at this. If you're on month-to-month subscription model, you need to take a look at something different. There's going to be some pricing impacts as far as what Microsoft is charging. So yeah, it's a pretty significant shift.
And maybe you don't know this, but I'm going to ask it. Why are they moving to the annual model?
Money.
Okay.
Didn't mean to cut you off. They said in a much friendlier, less direct and blunt way than I just did right there. But yeah, basically, they notify their customer base, I think last September or October, hey, by the way, we've significantly invested in these capabilities within these 10 licensing SKUs or whatever. And they picked basically the most popular individual licensing SKUs in their portfolio and said, we need you to transition to this for what we've already invested in. So they're saying like, hey, we've already invested in this and we've already made this so great. You can continue to consume it the way you have been. It's going to have a slight increase, about 20 to 40%, depending on how you're consuming it now, if you don't do what we're recommending you do and transfer to this licensing model. So they're saying, hey, we've invested in this, there's capabilities here, it's going to cost you a little bit more if you want to keep consuming it the way you have been. Here's the new great plan for you. Please pick a new customer experience partner and lock in with them for about a year.
Were there a higher percentage of people that were going month to month and then jumping ship, and they're no, we want to lock them down for a year?
You know, it's clever. So if you were an evil genius, think about it. If you were going to give someone something that they were going to use, any majority of the market using Microsoft, it's a huge, I wouldn't say monopoly, but it's a huge impact on enterprise. So people are going to consume Microsoft products one way or the other. So you get them to transition to cloud-based services, to SaaS subscription-based services by just slightly turning up the temperature, right? Not on what it costs to not do that. So we saw this first when people transitioned to Office 365, the cloud-based offering. All of a sudden, your on-premise local licensing, the way you traditionally used to purchase it, either however you used to buy it from a LAR or SPLA, whatever you wanted to do, you buy licenses for your on-premise, your data center. They started just turning up the heat on, hey, you know what? that renewal is going to cost you about 20-30% more.
Mhm.
So you start making the choice. Shoot, I'll just go to cloud-based licensing. So you slowly move to cloud-based licensing. Once you're at cloud-based licensing, you're on the month-to-month agreement. You're paying $20 a user for what Office 365 or whatever license you have. And then last year, 2021, September, October, I forget when it was, they said, oh, by the way, if you want to stay on this model, which is month to month and very convenient, you're now going to pay for that privilege through this cost increase. You don't have to eat the cost increase, but we'd like to move you to an annual subscription under a new customer experience model, which is so much better for you, Mr. Customer. They don't do it all at once. It's slow in fractions, slow, incrementally changing the game. I don't know if you ever heard the analogy of how you boil a frog slowly. You throw it in a pot of boiling water, it jumps out. But if you just slowly turn up the temperature, it'll sit there and boil to death. Not that we're frogs,
Yeah.
but the heat is turning up on people who choose to subscribe to licensing in a way that is not beneficial for investors. A lot of what's driving this is market valuation of these software providers. The investing class, the investing community wants annual reoccurring revenue or monthly reoccurring. They want that reoccurring revenue stream. And so if you can get a customer onto an annual contract with reoccurring revenue, that is viewed as a higher value for that revenue as opposed to monthly. So the longer the contract duration, the monthly reoccurring spend, that's what's seen as valuable in the investor community. And so the investor community gives Microsoft a higher multiple when they have that type of stuff, and it just trickles down to us schlubs here working on Word documents and trying to figure out how to pay my damn subscription. And to our Microsoft and Google overlords, I appreciate everything you do for us, and I'm very happy with what we're doing here. No problems there.
I was just curious, just asking questions. So our next article is from channelfutures.com as well. Russian invasion of Ukraine brings a new threat level to U.S. organizations. And this was a really interesting article that interviewed a lot of people who deal in security and what their concerns are and what they think you should be looking at. Cybersecurity experts say accompanying cyber attacks could bring threats to the United States. The FBI has asked U.S. business and local governments to be mindful of potential for ransomware attacks as the crisis deepens. And it interviews a number of people here. I think there's some really interesting quotes. This is from John Dixon. Businesses across the United States should be bracing for a variety of cybersecurity attacks, including ransomware and other familiar attacks. In addition, he says, to these, I suspect we'll see more disruptive and damaging malware, think wipers, attacks. Denial of service attacks are not out of the question either. I'm recommending all businesses increase their awareness and readiness for cybersecurity right now.
Yeah. With the evasion, with the sanctions, with the choices that the powers that be are making right now, we saw a denial of service attack. We saw Musk drop in satellite coverage for Ukraine and dropping in terminals there for Starlink, giving the folks in Ukraine internet access. We also saw another competitor to them, Viasat. They got taken down with a denial of service attack in Ukraine, and that spread across their network. That was on CNBC this morning. There's an invasion going on into a sovereign country. You have an organization in Russia that's getting sanctions put on it, and they're going to lash out and counterattack with what assets they have. And some of the ransomware, some of the malware, some of the denial of service attacks, a lot of what we've been seeing coming out before this has been coming from that part of the world anyway. So those are tools they have in their kit bag to cause damage, to cause fear, uncertainty, doubt, and rolling with what they have from a cyber conflict standpoint. What's concerning is you're now seeing that, I think just about an hour and a half ago, to be part of the EU, and that's going to have ramifications. And then we also saw a classification of cyber acts on NATO, right? I forget the name of the comment, but basically any act of cyber warfare to NATO countries or to other sovereign groups is an act of war, the same as launching Scuds. So there's this blending between the kinetic war and kinetic action and digital cyber world, which we're seeing combine. And I think it's going to get worse. I think people need to maintain their layered defense, be aware of it. Quest is a managed security service provider and an incident response team. We've been seeing more and more of this. We've been advising our customers of what we're seeing out there. There was a new Iranian threat that we published on Friday that we were made aware of, that we're sending out notifications to all of our people There's a lot going on. It's an evolving landscape, and the physical conflict is transitioning into the sanctions and then into the cyber conflict as well.
They interviewed this guy, Alex Ondrick, and he made an interesting comment. Consumers can use sites have I been pwned.com to see if they've been impacted by a security breach. Now, here's the reason I bring it up. I'm on my home desktop right now. I'm very secure. I'm very confident in that. I'll just test to see what comes up. So I went to this website. I want to read you the results. I have been owned by 30 data breaches. I was really shocked because I thought my home computer is totally fine. I'm great. So even when you're confident, it's worth looking at.
Passwords can be breached, usernames can be discovered, and so multi-factor authentication, making sure that you have that MFA turned on and enabled in your environment, and making sure that it's got to be layered defense, and you got to stay on top of it. And even like you just said, in your own use case right there yourself, you may have multiple like service providers that you subscribe to that have been hacked, and now they have your username and password for whatever that service provider was. It can be something like DoorDash, or it can be something like Uber or whatever. And if there's a breach at a service provider and you're in there, your username and password could be compromised.
That's exactly what it was, Adam. Everything from Dropbox to Canva to Adobe, they've had security breaches, and then that's where my data leaked out. So even if I think I'm secure over here, the other people I'm connected to might have data breaches. Your data is sitting over on another server and it can be compromised.
Not that I want you to think like a bad actor, but just imagine, like, when you look at, and this is not the best way to look at things, but when you look at convenience, when you look at, hey, this is super cool, try to think of it, hey, if I was a bad guy, how would I manipulate this to my face? I don't know why, but you remember the movie The Rock when we were kids? We'd watch the movie The Rock.
I just watched it in the last year. That movie holds up.
That movie does hold up. Sometimes you root for the bad guys. Not saying I totally rooted for the bad guys in that movie, but I was in favor of the bad guys in that movie. And sometimes you want to see them, you're like, well, that was a creative way to trap those people, or that was a creative way to do that, or that was pretty clever. When you're looking at convenience, when you're looking at how people are going to try to manipulate the situation in their favor, sometimes you got to think like a bad guy. And whenever you get excited about convenience or easy, or wow, that was just so cool how I just pushed that button and this application knew exactly where I was and exactly the closest 5 burger chains around me. That's cool, but how could that be used against you? So that's where when you have a security mindset, you got to try to look at, hey, there are bad people in this world who are going to try to manipulate what you have and what you're providing, but try to think like a bad actor every once in a while and be like, hey, maybe I don't want to allow this app to track where I am. Maybe I don't want to connect this bank account with Ticketmaster and just, process payments super easy. It's convenient, but what are you giving up for that convenience?
So think like an evil genius.
Yeah, or like Ed Harris from The Rock.
And finally, I wanted to bring this to your attention, Adam. I don't know if you've heard about it, but everything can be compromised, Adam. Did you hear about 2 students in a medical college who cheated by surgically implanting a Bluetooth receiver into his ear?
I had not heard about that one. Is that like Neuralink beta test for Elon Musk? Is that like a
Maybe it might have been a beta test. Maybe that's how he's going to try to get out of being expelled. But one person had a cell phone and was not in the testing facility. The other person wore a vest that had a SIM card embedded into it. So the whole vest acted as a cell phone. And that was connected to a Bluetooth that they surgically implanted into his ear. They were caught. They were trying to cheat on the final exam of the year and they got caught.
And now that was for med school?
That was for med school. The final test of the year.
That's rough. Because even if you do pass the test, now you're a doctor who doesn't know the answers. That's rough. A good, interesting attempt for a surgical implant.
Maybe if he passed and got a job, his friend would still stay on the phone and he would still wear his vest during appointments. And then his friend could give him information on, oh, I think he has this.
Yeah, probably some HIPAA violations going on there. But yeah,
probably.
That's good.
Security breaches are everywhere.
Nice.
Adam, hey, thanks so much for joining us.
Looking forward to the next one.
Thanks for joining us. This is episode 4, Incident Report. See you later, Adam. Thanks so much for listening. The Incident Report is brought to you by Quest Technology Management. With over 40 years of experience, Quest is a leading technology integrator working seamlessly with your staff and systems to achieve your IT goals. Learn more about everything they do at questsys.com. And if you have questions or suggestions for the podcast, you can always email Adam and myself at theincidentreport@questsys.com. Links are in the description. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.